At the Abbey of New Clairvaux, there is a quiet rhythm that moves through each day. Bells mark time for prayer, reading, and labor, and provide the cadence for a spiritual life that has survived for nearly 1,700 years. Today, the monks of New Clairvaux have become a symbol for the revival of ancient and sacred traditions. They are men centered in God, living a truth that in a world of noise, confusion, and conflict, it is necessary that there be a place of inner discipline and peace. But the facilities of New Clairvaux have outlived their useful life. While rich in history, they are woefully outdated and unable to support the monks' vision for a spiritually thriving community devoted to sharing their close relationship with God. In the small town of Vina in Northern California, along the Sacramento River, the self-sustaining monastery that is the spiritual setting for the Abbey of New Clairvaux is uncommonly rich in agriculture, architecture, and history.
The monks arrived here in 1955 from Kentucky, but the history of this land goes back a long way. It begins with the Yanayahi tribe that would camp all along Deer Creek. Later, Peter Lassen gets the land as a grant from the Mexican government. Henry Gerke has the land for about 30 years, and he has a successful vineyard there, and that attracts the attention of Leland Stanford. He purchases the ranch and he develops it into the largest vineyard and winery in the world, over 55,000 acres, the Great Vina Ranch.
Today, New Clairvaux also yields hundreds of acres of high-quality walnuts. The prunes grown here contribute to the complex layers of Sierra Nevada Ovila Abbey Ale. And the Old World varietal grapes provide the character that defines the premium quality of New Clairvaux wines. Yet there is much more to this Cistercian monastery. It's home to the sacred stones, now reconstructed into a remarkable example of Gothic architecture and part of the legacy of William Randolph Hearst.
It's a piece of history that we have nothing else that rivals it here in the North State.
William Randolph Hearst had a yen for bringing from Europe magnificent pieces of art and architecture. And his agent over there found this monastery that was not being used and was able to get Hearst interested in bringing over parts of the church, the chapter house itself, and the dining room or refectory, which were very special pieces.
So he made a deal and bought the place and took it down stone by stone in the early 1930s, and he brought the stones across the ocean in ocean-going containers to the San Francisco Bay Area.
But the Great Depression and World War II changed everything. The stones were stored and eventually donated to San Francisco's DeYoung Museum.
I came in 1955 from Gethsemane to help start this monastery. As we were going through the Golden Gate Park, by an offhand remark, there's a Cistercian monastery from Spain. I knew right away its value.
That was Father Thomas's vision from the beginning. He saw those stones and said, they need to return to Cistercian soil.
So in 1994, the city was able to work out an agreement whereby the stones could be awarded to the monastery.
Today, without the aid of blueprints, the monks have accomplished what others could not. And when completed, the new church will become the oldest functioning structure on the West Coast and the most architecturally historic church in North America.
There are three pillars that make up the monastic life. The work of God, which is the liturgical prayer, the chanting of the Psalms. Lectio Divina, which is a way of meditating, reflecting, and listening to God speaking to us through the scriptures. And then manual labor, which is the way of livelihood and support for us. These three work in tandem, as it were, by connecting us body, soul, and spirit into that oneness, that unity of God's Spirit.
As a community, the monks work to sustain a contemporary agricultural enterprise, maintain their cloister, and nurture the growing demand for hospitality and spiritual retreats. There are trees and vines to cultivate, meals to prepare, facilities to manage, wines to age, crops to monitor, and machines to keep running, all while maintaining the balance and simplicity of monastic life.
I never knew that we'd be so involved in so many things. When I entered the monastery, I'm a simple lay brother. But I love the work, and I love the prayer, I love the reading, and you got to keep it in balance. That's all I have to say.
The origin of the Trappist monks extends from Saint Benedict in the 6th century. In that tradition, all guests at New Clairvaux are treated as Christ. Some come with questions of discernment or healing. Some to deepen their faith, attend Mass, or enjoy the serenity. Others come to tour the historic buildings and grounds, or taste the wines in Leland Stanford's 130-year-old wine cellar.
A do-it-myself retreat is always so wonderful to experience the surroundings, the chapel, the brothers are there if you need them. And then the peace and the love that just pervades here. It doesn't have to be spoken or anything. I mean, you can just feel it here.
With the dramatic increase of visitors, the existing site and structures at New Clairvaux can no longer serve the growing demand. The aging and damaged buildings and the unfinished chapter house required a strategy for a master site plan that would preserve the future of the monastery.
The process we used was one of discovery, and the monks themselves identified that goes back, I think, to their traditions of 1,200 years ago, but it was never articulated in a way that was going to be used in a planning process. The values were there, but it was part of the process was to let them talk about that and see how it would apply for their futures.
Ultimately, it was Cistercian values and beliefs that led to a strategy for a master site plan that could achieve the monks' vision. The chapter house will become the new church for Our Lady of New Clairvaux and welcome visitors with updated grounds, lush vineyards, and shaded parking. With its history and striking architecture, the new church will be ideal for theological conferences, gatherings, and concerts. A new welcome center will provide resources that will connect visitors to the Abbey and its mission. Open daily, the Welcome Center will provide access to the winery and retreat areas and feature exhibits that detail the history of the monastery and its land. Inside the cloistered area, a much-needed pastoral center will replace the decaying original church. A new assisted living facility and infirmary will allow monks in the later stage of their lives to remain with their brothers throughout their days. A new formation center will support vocations and ongoing education with meditation and classrooms, a computer area, offices, and expanded library for the Abbey's nearly 40,000 volumes.
When I drive through those gates, as I've done for 40 years, I found the ability to see myself and see the world around me much more clearly and much more balanced. So the experience that I have had can be an experience that many, many people will have, my children, my grandchildren will have into the future. And that to me is a critical, important aspect of this master site plan.
A spiritual retreat, away from the noise of everyday life, is a rare and precious gift. While the monks of New Clairvaux will continue to embrace those who seek their spiritual sanctuary, they are limited by circumstance, and they will need help, so that someday this chapter house will again resonate with the same prayer infused into these stones 8 centuries ago. Whether guided by faith, the love of historic architecture, or an appreciation for sacred traditions, the Abbey of New Clairvaux is the opportunity to complete a legacy and share the mystery of prayer for generations to come.